Deadly radioactive dust risks blanketing Moscow as activists warn of a new Chernobyl. This is by Kieran McGrath out of Express UK. But we know that Russia, never tells the truth concerning especially radioactive leaks, nuclear leaks. We know that from Chernobyl, and we know that from what happened when Putin's new radioactive isotope went wrong, and they had to finally evacuate the people around the area. Now this radioactive slag heap next to the banks of Moscow River could poison the entire city of Moscow if developers insist with the construction of a 23-mile motorway. The environmentalists warned, with activists comparing the situation to 1986 Chernobyl disaster. A campaign organization, Greenpeace, the Russian arm of that, hired experts who detected levels of radiation up to 8 times that of normal along areas of the proposed route between Moscow Polymetal's plant and the Moskverek commuter rail station in the south of the nation's capital. Now this slag heap, which measures half a kilometer in width, has tens of thousands of tons of radioactive waste in it, and has been left over from the extraction of thorium and uranium at the plant before 1996. Specialists from the licensed Technoterra company and Greenpeace employees, watched by the journalists, took measurements. They took soil samples on the slope between Moscow Polymetal plant and the station, and their instruments recorded dose rates of gamma radiation measuring more than 1 microsievert per hour at the depth of half a meter down. That's 5 to 8 times higher than the natural background higher levels on the surface. Now, Greenpeace spokesman said, this means that during construction work, contaminated soil can be on the surface and radioactive dust can spread over considerable distances. The distance from the place where the samples were taken to the nearest residential building is only 200 meters, which is like 600 feet. That's all. This is what the Moskverechit platform, 50 meters down. Now the people who breathe it will of course increase their risk of cancer. The Greenpeace Russian branch set radiation measurements protocols to the Rospotrebnadzor office of the city of Moscow, and then Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin demanded they immediately take measurements to protect human life and measures to protect human life and health from this radiation hazard. They said if necessary measures are not taken, these radiation measurements protocols will be the basis for the Russian branch of Greenpeace and local residents to seek protection of the rights to a favorable environment through the prosecutor's office and the courts. Of course, good for them. They'll take it to the Attorney General and courts to stop the station plan, the planned station from being constructed. Now, the Communist Party municipal deputy Pavel Tarasov told the Moscow Times, I believe the authorities know full well the risks, but it's a lot easier to steal state budget funds allocated to construction than to clean up radioactive waste. All right, that's hitting the nail on the head. Of course, you're just going to turn your back and do your project. Now, speaking in July, Katya Maximova, 32 years old, who lives close to the site, said Russia has a history of preventable tragedies caused by negligence. It's not negligence if you know that it's going to happen. It's intent to defraud, which is not at all negligence. Negligence means that you didn't know that you were doing something wrong. Okay? Or perhaps you didn't know how to do your job properly. But if you know that this is going on and you're intentionally going ahead with what will harm people, then that's criminal. That is really criminal. Now, she said, we're not against the authorities or against the construction. What we want is a full-scale examination first. Now, her friend, Rusiana Lugavaya, said, why go visit Chernobyl when you have your own Chernobyl right here in Moscow? Now, acting head of Moscow's construction department is Rafik Zagrudinov. I don't know why I go into the trouble of mentioning all these names, but just out of curiosity, can I pronounce them? I'm sure I'm making mistakes. He says he told the media that geological surveys had shown no excess in background radiation. Oh well, okay. He's the head of the Moscow construction department. He's of course a federal employee. He's a government man. Who knows what he is? Probably a communist cabinet member or whatever. And he's not going to go against the waves. Now, the Chernobyl disaster occurred, as we know, April 26, 1986, at the number 4 nuclear reactor in Chernobyl, which is pretty close to Kiev in Ukraine, at the nuclear power plant, close to the city of Pripyat, North Ukraine. At the time, it was, of course, all of that. Ukraine was part of Russia, as we know. Now, Chernobyl on HBO and Sky Atlantic. It says Chernobyl is a historical drama, televised ministries created and written by Craig Mazin. And I started seeing that. I only saw the first episode because it was very tough. And we had to get, with my family, get some more energy and strength in order to watch the next portion of that. Anyway, it's a good production, but it's very, very, very strong. What happened? It was basically the government of Russia lying to the people. As now, this guy here, Rafik Zugrudinov, whatever his name is, the construction department, says we didn't find any improper radiation, no background radiation. Well, obviously, he should recheck because other people have found 8 times higher. Now, it's generally seen the world's worst nuclear disaster, Chernobyl, one of the just 2 rated at the maximum severity of 7 on the International Nuclear Event Scale, along with the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan, which is, of course, still uncontrollable. They're saying that they want to ditch the water into the Pacific Ocean because they don't have enough space to store all these water canisters. Well, they should get more space. Get the outlying the nearby fields and put the canisters there. Now, in tackling the fire, 134 firemen and station staff were hospitalized with acute radiation syndrome, many dying after months after that, while hundreds of thousands of people were evacuated. A 30-kilometer exclusion zone remains in force around the site of Fukushima. Now, both Chernobyl and contamination from Moscow polymetal plant, here in Moscow now, are a legacy of the Soviet era, as pollution in the Kara Sea and the Russian Arctic Circle, sometimes dubbed Russia's nuclear cemetery. A report published by Russian Federation warned of 17,000 containers and 19 vessels they're lying with radioactive waste on the seabed 127 meters below the surface, about 300 feet below the surface. 17,000 containers and 19 vessels of radioactive waste. Now, given the remoteness of that location, visiting the area is really a problem, as would be any operation to remove all this material. There are also 14 nuclear reactors, as well as the shell of a K-27, the first nuclear-powered submarine in its class. 14 nuclear reactors. The shell of K-27, the first nuclear-powered submarine in the class, 17,000 containers and 19 vessels of radioactive waste. This is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. And of course they're lying about all this. I'll leave links below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.